Boy, this stormy weather is really clouding my vision. It's uh it's uh it's never been this stormy in my life.
Mm.
My umbrella is gone now, so I'm gonna need something better than an umbrella to weather the storm. I'm gonna need a hero.
I was wondering where you were going. Like I was just sitting here thinking, like, okay, where's my line? Where
You
do
were
I get my
wondering where I
line?
was going? Oh my goodness. I thought as soon as you heard storm, he's like, is he gonna draw this out for
Yeah,
five
just
minutes and then talk and then say the word hero? I really thought that
like,
you caught on like right away.
you just need someone to get you to the end of the night. You know, they have to be strong. They have to be cool. They have to be quick to the fight.
I think that's one of the lyrics. Larger than life?
Larger than life. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was quick to the fight was later on in the song.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've completely and totally screwed that up.
No, everything has gone according to plan.
Yes, a masterful wedding.
The plan that I concocted like 1 minute after I turned on the record button.
Mm. Okay, so we're talking about Heroes of the Storm because we talked about Dota and
Quite a bit.
maybe we referenced it. Well, we play Dota, so we're allowed to reference it.
Yeah, and we reference it like all the time.
And I guess at some point we're probably going to end up talking about League of Legends. I think I'm going to call in sick that day. But you know, Heroes is definitely there and has definitely succeeded in cutting itself a niche, and it's something that we have put some hours into. So
Yeah.
it's something that is worth talking about.
Yeah. I'm happy to say that I got past my initial impressions of Heroes of the Storm, which wasn't positive, and I continue to play it, and I actually do play it regularly in a ranked capacity, which is, I guess, technically competitive, but it's like,
Were
but
you around in the technical alpha?
no,
Okay, because I was in the technical alpha. That did not leave a good impression.
no.
That was disgusting.
I,
Technical alpha is technical alpha, but still.
yeah, but I guess standard because it's Blizzard might have been a little bit higher. Like if you're gonna allow people to access this and you're Blizzard, I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean,
That's where I can see the
when more than half my games end with the game crashing and not actually being completed,
yeah,
that's a problem.
definitely alpha.
Yeah.
But I have a very positive opinion towards Heroes of the Storm. I really do.
I have a respect for it. I'm not going to stop playing Dota, but I think there's a lot of things about Heroes of the Storm which they do right. I think there's things about Heroes of the Storm they do wrong. And as I said, I think it's just something it's worth talking about. Whether or not I personally like or dislike something does not necessarily validate its existence. I mean, the Notebook is a thing.
Hmm.
Dear God knows I wish I could go back in time and murder the author, but my personal opinion and my not liking it doesn't erase it from existence. And I'm very sorry. I wish
So
I
Heroes
could.
of the Storm is a notebook to you. You respect it, but if you can go back in time,
No, I wouldn't go back in time and stop Heroes of the Storm. I'd go back in time and kill Nicholas Sparks.
gotcha. You know there
Is this
are.
Nicholas or Jonathan?
I don't know.
Whatever.
Is the author of a romance novel that I don't care for? Isn't it? Was
A
it
large
romance?
number of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You know there are other people that you can go back in time and kill that might yield more positive benefits, save a lot of lives, that kind of thing.
It'd be a short list.
Yeah. I started playing Heroes of the Storm when it came out. I don't think I played beta. No, I didn't beta it. I didn't beta
It
it at
did
all.
go through beta way fast. Like we talked before about the idea of the infinite beta, and strangely enough, one of the critiques I have with Heroes of the Storm is that it went out of beta too fast. Like it was not ready when it came out of the cooker. But yeah, it went gold with record speed
Yeah.
compared to lots of other games right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got the impression that it wasn't fully fleshed out, maybe to the standards that Blizzard fleshes their games out when they come out. But that standard has dropped off with their last couple of releases. I mean, Diablo 3 has gone through a tremendous overhaul since it came out. And I mean, World of Warcraft came out fully fleshed out for what it was, and people were fine with playing through all that content, so you felt like you got the finished product. And yeah, with Heroes of the Storm, because this is a newer generation game, the expectations have changed a lot. So I guess people are a little bit more lenient nowadays to play the game and know that more stuff is coming. We're gonna get more characters to play. We're gonna get more maps to play on. We might even get new game modes. That's just the way the things are. So my first impression of Heroes of the Storm was that the heroes do not have the same impact that heroes in Dota had. And what I mean by that, and one of my philosophies about gaming is that when you play a character, the character you play also dictates the game that you're going to be playing through within the game of Dota. And that's where I feel like the titles have always been a good indicator of that. When you play Earthshaker, that's the game you're playing. You're playing the Earthshaker game. I didn't really get that impression with Sailors of the Storm. I didn't feel like I was playing like the Arthas game or the Tyrande game.
Well, I think part of the overall design, well, this goes back to how they build their heroes. Heroes of the Storm, as far as I'm aware, is the only MOBA out there, or MOBA style game, whatever you want to call it, that does not
Arena game.
Arena game.
I'm not trying to correct you. I'm just that's what I call them. So
Okay, well, the first of a Dota style game, I call them Dota style because Dota started it. That
Aeons of Strife started it, but Aeons of Strife turned into Dota. Okay, now I'm correcting you.
Okay. We're done? Okay. It's the first one of the styles to forego currency in purchasable.
Karma. I deserve this.
Okay, I thought you were actually coughing to correct me. But it's the first one to forego economy. There's no currency and there's no purchasable items. And because of that, every hero has to do everything the hero has to do. If you take someone like Tassadar, okay, so first of all, they go with the more, I guess, the newer style of designs where everyone has a passive, then 3 abilities, and then an ultimate. Yes, they have optional ultimates. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, I mean, you get a couple of characters who don't have a passive; they just have like an extra ability.
Yeah, they have an extra.
By and large, it's passive.
By and large, but because you can't change them around, they really have to cram a lot into each character. They have to give them 3 abilities. They have to give them the 2 choices of ultimate when they reach level 10, and they have to give them a passive, many of which has just turned into actives. I mean, I get Brewmaster drinks his brew to recharge his mana, but Tassadar's Oracle, shouldn't he just have further sight range than everybody else? Wouldn't that just make more sense as an actual passive?
Well, if we want to address that one specifically, having it being activatable lets the player feel like they have a little bit more agency and control in the character.
But the point is you can't augment them really in the same way you can in a game like Dota. If you have a team with not a lot of slows, for example, you can buy the Rod of Atos, which gives you the access to power Cripple, Cripple with or whatever, that allows you to slow people. If you needed a little more in a, I guess, at-will capacity, you could get a Orb of Venom. You can get a mechanism to heal everybody nearby. So even non-support characters can buy a mechanism, get a little tankier, and can now heal everyone nearby.
And in fact, the way the meta develops is often because of the items. The items that combine very well with certain heroes become those core items. Or becomes those meta, or becomes just the items that are expected. For example, Blink Dagger on basically everybody, except Anti-Mage, and I guess Queen of Pain. Yeah, Queen of Pain wouldn't want Blink Dagger. She'd be like, what'd you do?
Well, that actually leads to another excellent point because this influences their design a lot. Let's take a look at Magnus from Dota 2. Now, Magnus has multiple abilities. We're going to focus on the 2 one for this experiment. His Skewer and his Reverse Polarity. Skewer allows him to charge forward. Wait, is Skewer the ranged one? Shit. Okay, what's the one that charges forward?
We'll just call it the charge. Everybody knows what you're talking about.
Okay, so he has an ability where
the one that I embarrass myself every time I try to use.
Yeah, he has one where he charges forward and he grabs several enemy heroes while charging, bringing them with him to the end of his journey. And his ultimate is Reverse Polarity, where he sucks everyone towards him and stuns them. Now, as a hero, he's not terribly effective until you add Blink Dagger. Now, for those who don't play Dota 2, Blink Dagger is basically a very upgraded version of Flash from League of Legends, which is another thing I would really fucking wish they would get rid of. It allows you to teleport a short distance over pretty much ignoring everything in between, traps, mines, whatever. Yeah, that's pretty much what it lets you do.
It's very expensive.
It's very expensive.
If you are taking damage, you can't use it for a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of changes the game.
But
in a very dramatic level, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to Magnus, a hero who back in Dota 1 was created after Blink Dagger was introduced. Now, technically, you could use your charge ability to charge into a group and then suck everyone together. But how effective is that compared to blink behind your enemy team and then charge forward, pulling a few of them out.
Or blinking in a good position, using reverse polarity to suck everyone together, and then using charge to basically push everyone into a better situation for you.
If you were to eliminate Blink Dagger from the game, Magnus would become significantly less effective. And you can look at someone like Sand King, who also benefits from Blink Dagger, but he at least has a more reliable way of getting himself into fights. And there's several other heroes who, Puck, there we go. Like, Puck also can get herself into, and in many ways, out of fights very easily, but by buying a Blink Dagger, she now has more ability to do it. It really alters a lot of how it works. And then you go to Heroes of the Storm, and I think at the maximum level you can get to, some of the characters
have Bolt of the Storm,
which is a very nerfed version of Flash. Like,
they're
pathetic.
Of all the games that we've mentioned, the point teleport ability is least utilized in Heroes of the Storm, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm more drawn to it.
But part of the whole point is, in Heroes of the Storm, your heroes have to be complete, because since there are no items, you can't augment or change them. You can't take a very fast assassin and start slamming a bunch of health items on them so they just never die. The very fast assassin will always be the very fast assassin, albeit with maybe stone skin or a few things along the way to augment that in some way. But nonetheless, Vala will always be Vala. Artanis will always be Artanis. Sonya will always be Sonya. You can't, take Sonya and build her to insane attack speeds. You can't take Abathur and turn him into a tank.
Right. So if you want to succeed with the hero that you're playing, you do have to play the hero effectively based off what you're given. There is the trait system, which we haven't touched on yet. The trait system, I think at first glance, it seems unremarkable or not really all that helpful, or just not all that game-changing. Because if you win support and people are expecting you to heal, so you're probably going to be healing throughout the whole match. And then and then what ends up happening is that with your traits, which you select one of either 1, 3, or 4 every few levels. I think it's like you get one at 1, and then 3, 7, 10, something like that.
Yeah.
And what happens is if you're the healer, then you're probably just going to get all the traits that improve your healing ability. What I enjoy about the trait system is that I think there is a lot more depth to be explored by the traits, which is kind of hindered at the moment as far as this recording is concerned, because the traits have still been reworked, and there's even some characters who have been overhauled. And I've never been very fond of that, even if it's necessary, because I try to put trust in developers and say, this is what you gave us. You know what to expect, and there may be room for things that you didn't think were possible. And when people find that room and it turns out to be way more powerful than they expected, then they have to do a nerf, and it's not cool. But anyways, what I like about the traits is that it allows you to take a character that is dictated to be a very specific role, like a support, and you have an opportunity to try to do something different with it. One example is my main, which is a Tyrande, who is labeled as a support for the fact that she has a stun, she has scouting, she has range damage boost, and she has a heal. And if I'm the only support in it, then I'm usually going to go healer. But she has a bunch of traits that lean into her DPS capability instead. There's one called Seasoned Marksman, which is the first one that you pick out of a group of 4. And every 6 minions you kill boosts your damage permanently for the rest of the match, which turns her into a complete different character at that point, because now you aren't so concerned about being in every fight and managing damage and stuns. You're concerned about pushing and trying to take down as many minions as you can, so you can build up as much of that damage as you can in a safe environment, as opposed to trying to rack it up from all these hero kills, which you can also do. And then what you can do is you can get cooldown reduction. You can improve the Sentinel, which is a bird she shoots throughout the entire map. You can improve the size of that. You can make it hit everybody. And by the time your build is at level 20, you've crafted this version of Tyrande that pushes really effectively and supports her allies by firing off this giant bird that can ideally clear through all of the opponents and deal a tremendous amount of damage while she's still adding XP to the team, which, by the way, is something we haven't mentioned yet. The experience that you get goes to everybody.
It's you don't have individual levels. You have one team level, which is nice because it means that if you're getting ganked a lot, you're still leveling up.
Yeah,
like there's
but
definitely
but you're still being a detriment to your team by getting yourself killed.
Yeah,
So
and by no means are we inviting you to get yourself killed.
no, unless it's a good trade. You know, you get yourself killed, but you get 2 kills out of it, and you don't feel like you were gimped for your sacrifice. You didn't lose gold or anything like that. So when you come back, the overall team experience has been a net gain. So it actually does encourage, on some level, a riskier play, because if you can get something better out of it than your own death, your team has properly benefited from it, and you didn't suffer from it.
I think we're getting off specifics here.
Well, the specifics was me talking about my specific to Ron build. But the point that I wanted to come to is that at first glance, the game is going to come across as very simple, and it's definitely more simple than Dota and more simple than League of Legends by not having the item system in there and also the masteries, this, and traits that, as far as the League is concerned. But that doesn't mean that it can't be complicated.
Well, if you break it down like that, the most mechanically simple game in the world is chess. Imagine how damn insane that gets.
Incredibly. I mean, there's an industry based around chess.
Yeah, but it actually, I feel like there may be, in fact, too many mechanics in Heroes of the Storm, but this comes through specifically through the various levels. Because unlike League of Legends, which has one map they put a lot of effort into and another map that you sort of do as a joke, Dota, which has one map that can be reskinned a whole bunch of other times, Heroes of the Storm has a whole bunch of maps, each of which have secondary objectives, which in many ways can render lane pushing irrelevant. I mean, lane pushing is always there. There's always going to be lanes. There's always going to be towers to destroy. But, you know, you can take...
Yeah, the priorities change from map to map. There are maps where it's very effective, and then there's maps where you don't do it.
Yeah. For example, there is a map where you are collecting coins. You get them from killing neutral creatures or from raiding chests that occasionally spawn, and you give them to a pirate. Now, when you give him enough coins, he will fire on your enemy's structures. Now, if you can get this several times, you can destroy a large amount of your enemy's towers, forts, etc., without ever having to actually step foot into them or fire off a shot yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very hands-off thing, and then you can go to a place like Sky Temple, which is the same thing, but it's a different triggering mechanic, but nonetheless the same outcome, where you can actually destroy the opponent's core without ever setting foot in their base.
Yep.
And some of these things, like especially if you look at one of the newer maps, the Gravekeeper one, you have a lot of plates spinning at once. You've got a lot of things you're trying to keep track of, a lot of things that are going on. So not having items is fantastic because it means you don't have an extra plate to spin, but at the same time you have loaded down too many objectives, because ultimately you can look at League of Legends and Dota. There are 2 ancients or cores, whatever you want to call them, and the game ends when one of them is in more pieces than the other. How do you do this? You push minions. You push minions down lanes, and the lanes push into the core, and you blow up the core. Mm-hmm. In Heroes of the Storm, because every single map has a secondary objective that can allow you to basically ride the whole game hands off, it kind of confuses the things. I mean, when people first start, back when Haunted Mines was a thing, by the way, Blizzard, thank you for removing that map from the rotation. It was awful. But back when that was a thing, you had to yell at people to get into the mines, because they're pushing the lanes like you're supposed to push the lanes. No, we have to get into the mines. But the lanes are still getting pushed and counter-pushed and all that stuff. No, we have to get into the mines because that's what the secondary objective of the map is. You have to get into the mines and harvest the skulls. There are too many harvest the items. That is a big critique I have of the maps. There's too many harvest the items. Get the blossoms, get the coins, get
gems.
The gems, skulls. That's one of the reasons why I like Sky Temple, because you have these huge capture points with PvE elements on them, and you have to stay on top of them while stuff is not getting knocked around. It gives you room to maneuver and to try to set things up, whereas the mines were claustrophobic. So there were a couple of heroes who dominated in the mines, and the rest of them may as well go home and start sucking their thumbs.
Mm.
So that also becomes an influence on the traits, but it does. I really wonder what would happen if they released a classical Dota style map in Heroes of the Storm. What exactly would happen? A lack of secondary objectives. What would happen? Because right now, thematically, mechanically, it is actually very complicated because there's so many things going on at once.
Mm-hmm. When you look at the way people tend to play in, say, Dota, there is a lot of passivity. There are heroes that you don't see in combat for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then they show up and all of a sudden they have a bunch of items. And I always found that to be kind of frustrating because if I'm going to play a game with 5 people on my team, or sorry, 4 people on my team plus me and 5 people on the enemy team, I want it to be like a 5-on-5. And it technically is because the person who's doing the farming is still doing the same, still trying to win anyways, right? What they wanted to do with the objectives is to reward the better team as opposed to rewarding any one individual. If you as a team can clear this objective, that is going to yield much better results than if, say, some people do this and they do push and maybe 3 people go for the objective and the other team is all 5 and they're coordinated and they're clearing it much quicker. Then that team makes it. It punishes selfishness. If you're doing what maybe I suggested and you're just like focusing on pushing the lanes and you don't show up for the objective, unless it was the team's plan to keep one person, because that does happen. There are specialists who are labeled specialists and their job is to just continue pushing regardless of what the objective is. Then you're fine. But otherwise, in like a quick match setting or in a ranked setting where you only know maybe one other person that you queued up with, it by I guess taking people by the tail and kind of like dragging them to what it is they need to do. It is better for the players.
Well, you actually sort of very adamantly bring up, I guess, 2 of the biggest complaints that not only me, but I think this is something that universally people are complaining about this game. First of all, matchmaking is trying to kill you.
This is true.
Even Blizzard has admitted to this.
Yeah. What's happening is it is balancing it out in a way that's not balanced. It's giving you matches where you're probably going to win, and then it's giving you matches where you're probably going to lose. And if you win the matches where you're probably going to win, you don't get rewarded all that much. And I'm talking about ranked right now. But if you win the matches where you're probably going to lose, you get a tremendous amount of reward because you overcame an obstacle that was actually by design supposed to be something that you weren't supposed to overcome.
Well, in my case, I've seen in quick match, because that's primarily where I play when I play the game, I've seen a lot of problems where the enemies will have a whole bunch of high-level people and we won't. Like, when you're the only person of max profile level on your team and the enemy team has a whole bunch of them, you know something's gone wrong. When you see the enemy team is all grouped together and you're 5 individual people, you know something has gone wrong. And even Blizzard has talked about the fact that up to this point, they haven't been calculating individual hero levels, because you have your profile level, but then you also have the hero level, which pretty much just gets you skins, cosmetic stuff, and the occasional burst of gold. Mm. So you will have a lot of team ups where people who are just starting out these heroes or just at the first few levels or whatever like that are against people who have master skins and a whole bunch of things like that. And that is definitely not balanced. You can definitely tell that something went wrong with matchmaking. You'll have, I think that mostly covers every single angle there is. It's very unfair, and even Blizzard has said they were doing this system, it wasn't working very well, they're now accommodating for this, they're now accommodating for this, and I think they know how to make a proper matchmaking system, they're just unwilling to incorporate it because they, as they have said, are concerned about queue times. Because compared to Dota, even in low hours, like Heroes of the Storm just takes a very long time to find a match usually, and the more they try to fix the matchmaking, the longer it's going to take to find a match, which kind of suggests that maybe they don't have the right player population to sustain this game.
I don't know about that. I think eventually everyone who's playing the game will either quit or transition into the ranked setting, and in that case, there will be enough people to play it. So that's just not a concern that I've had. In Blizzard games, they see the thing about Heroes of the Storm is that it has the same kind of effect that Smash Brothers has because it's a combination of a bunch of different games. So you have StarCraft fans who are going to try it, you have Diablo fans who are going to try it, you have Warcraft fans, Overwatch fans who are like, oh man, Overwatch is a lot of fun. Oh, some of the Overwatch characters are in Heroes of the Storm. I'm gonna do that. So there will be new people coming in as well. When you're talking about queue times, that reminded me of something that I used to think that I haven't really entertained lately. Is that I imagine myself like in my own apartment, which I don't have because it's Toronto, and I have the Dota queue running. And what I've done is that I actually was allowed to set up a number of filters for what kind of match I want. Even to the point where I would actually want certain heroes to be banned. And this isn't ranked, this would just be like a normal match. But it was very specific, and it was about the exact match that I wanted to have. And the more specific I got and the more I filtered it, the more I was sacrificing the queue time. I would have to wait an hour for matchmaking to put my match together. And that would allow me to go do something else, like start cooking dinner or do a chore or work on something. And when the queue would pop up, it said your game is ready, and it wouldn't count down for like a minute because I might be in the washroom for God's sakes. But it would say you have 5 minutes to accept this match. And what it turned into is that when the match starts, I got to play the Dota that I wanted to play, as opposed to having to queue for like a minute and then ending up with a bunch of Peruvians. And as good as they can be, they don't even speak the same language, which is a huge barrier, which wouldn't be as much of a problem in Heroes of the Storm because the objectives tell you what to do even if the other people aren't telling you what to do. The objectives are like, you go here now, you win this objective, you're going to win the game. So even if you don't understand what the other people are saying, don't worry about it. Just shoot the thing, pick up the shiny thing, bring it over to the person, and you're fine.
Well, I mean, we're sort of circling around the second major complaint I have with it. And in order to fully illustrate the second major complaint I have with this game, we are going to perform a little skit based very much on an actual conversation that actually happened. Hey everyone, let's play Heroes of the Storm!
Yay!
Quick, power up TeamSpeak.
What's that?
No one uses TeamSpeak anymore. Let's use Mumble.
What's that?
Don't we all have Skype? Can't we just use Skype?
What's that?
No, you're saying TeamSpeak's done a lot better. It's a lot more improved now.
Oh, well that's good news, but what's that?
No. My friend and I have paid for a Mumble server. We don't use a Mumble server. That's a lot of money that's shoveled down the drain.
Wait a minute. I heard that Skype sends your information to the NSA.
No, that's not true. That's not true. They never proved it. They never proved that!
Why don't we use curse?
Wasn't that just a hilarious skit?
Put a fucking VoIP in your game. We know you can do it. We know there's one in Overwatch. All right? The ping system is at least nicer. I mean, one of the things we complained about in Dota is there's the one ping. Ping. At least this game gives you an automatic retreat ping, and it gives you a secondary ping that allows you to say, go here, danger, whatever. That's nice. Put a voice system in the damn game. Because that's what you need. The more plates you have spinning, the more camps you need to clear, the more coins you need to collect, the more objectives you need to move to, the more shifting and changing of the lanes, the faster you need to communicate now. And it will always be fastest by holding down the push to talk button and speaking. Because then you can articulate your entire point in a fraction of the time it takes to type it. And this has led to, I think, the biggest toxicity in Heroes of the Storm, because when things are happening, no one's typing because everyone needs to do this or this. But when you're all dead because things fucked up, you have all the time in the world to type out the insults to everybody. And that is when the toxicity happens. After something wrong happens, everyone accuses each other. Well, not everyone, but lots of people will accuse other people of being idiots because they're dead. So they have the time to type. If you gave a voice chat, things could be coordinated before the fact. And that's another big problem with the queuing, because if you're up against 4 people who are queued together and you're with a whole bunch of random people, there's a good chance those 4 friends you'll have Mumble or TeamSpeak or something or whatever. I mean, I've had these conversations in Dota where people insist on using X, Y, or Z system, but when all else fails, there's an in-game VoIP that's actually very nice. It works. Like, I have seen bad in-game VoIPs. Dota has a good one, and that ends every argument. What shall we use? Well, like, oh, I want to use this. I was like, no, we're going to use the in-game VoIP because it's there and everybody can use it, and we'll definitely include the pugs when we talk because that's a concern I think I've told you about using Mumble and things like that. If there's a single pug, you're not talking to them if you're using an out-of-game VoIP.
Yeah, and if you don't like what they're saying, you mute them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the big reason why in Hearthstone they don't give you any way to communicate with your opponent. They give you 6 predetermined whatever expressions, but they don't let you directly communicate with them because I think Blizzard is scared shitless of toxicity. They know that many of these competitive online games can get very toxic, can get very meta heavy, can get very, why aren't you doing the thing that the parasite in my head is saying you should be doing? So that's why they handicapped Hearthstone, but you don't really need a reason to communicate with your opponent in Hearthstone. It's just you communicate with them for fun. Whereas in Heroes of the Storm, you need to communicate with your teammates and you are muting everybody because some of them might be toxic.
I agree with you, and I also think that a lot of designers are afraid of their players getting upset. Now, you and I have both probably been upset numerous times in the numerous games that we've played.
This is why I use a push to talk instead of a free mic, because if I ever feel like, cursing the sky, I can just let go of the button.
Yeah.
No one knows.
Yeah. And if whether you are someone who's been designing games for a while, or you've been playing games for a while, or just, I don't know, been on this planet, getting upset is a natural part of life. It's just something that we have to deal with. And
I take offense to your taking offense to my offense.
And you can't stop yourself from being upset, but you can't upset. But you can control it in most cases. And I would actually would argue that being upset while playing a game is important. And the reason why is because it breaks down some of your preconceived limitations or like your mental attitude towards it, and it removes a lot of that crap that you have been holding on to, and it opens up your mind again to continue to develop your gameplay. And by being upset and realizing that what you thought was right is actually wrong, or you did not do nearly as well as you thought you did, you reach a low point, and those low points are so important, and no one wants to face them. And I don't want to face them, but when they come, and you have to deal with them.
I kind of look at it as a far simpler way. Video games are a nice way to work out aggression, and yes, you're going to sometimes get aggressed while doing it, especially if you're in a situation.
I would say that like in a competitive or in a competitive setting where you are trying to get better, being upset or being frustrated or angry at the game will happen. And if that's the reason why there's no voice chat in the game, I'm gonna tell you it's not the right reason. I mean, if you can't afford it, I also don't think that's the right reason too, because you're Blizzard. And that's
you're Blizzard Activision. I just want to point out that Activision bought up Blizzard, and Activision does Call of Duty, which has voice chat. I should know because I've got a bunch of 12-year-old kids out there who seem to think they've had sex with my mother. That escalated quickly.
Oh, it did.
I'm not quite sure where you go from. Another comment I would have, but I wouldn't rate this as major as the 2 other complaints I just had, is the lack of support in that game. Like supports as in the general role. The 4 roles in the game are Assassin. Do I need to explain that one? Does a lot of damage.
It's kind of funny though, just because whenever I think Assassin, I think Cloaked in the Shadows, I attack from behind and deal critical damage, which several characters do that. But then that doesn't account for characters like Jaina or Thrall or characters who get in your face and and they fight face to face, whether it's at range or right in front of you with a hammer. So basically, with Thrall isn't someone that I would call an assassin. He's someone that I would call warrior, but then warriors are referred to more as tanks, and it gets kind of confusing.
Yeah, okay, but the point, they're not really hard definitions. I mean, as you said, you're the one support you like to play, can be spec to do a lot of damage. Malfurion can't. Please stop trying to play Malfurion as a caster, you bastards.
Oh, challenge accepted.
I don't actually play with him, so this is fine. So assassins do a lot of damage. Warriors are the
Yeah, that's
durable
good.
ones,
Yeah.
and they can also do a lot of damage, but generally speaking, they take it. Supports are usually the healers, the shielders, the people who facilitate other people's success, like in most games. Then you have specialists who currently come in two categories. Siege heroes like Sylvanas, who can stun towers and minions and therefore can help push, and summoners who basically just summon a bunch of minions and have them do jobs for them. You can't control the minions individually, which is definitely something I miss from Dota, but that would start getting really silly if you want to do that. But there are currently 52 heroes in the game, 9 of which are supports, and the next one coming out is going to be another specialist. I mean, we're a little low on specialists, so that's fine, but they're the most. I left the paper at home that had the exact numbers on it, but the most number of heroes are assassins. Because it feels good to be an assassin. It feels good to be able to walk into a room and then walk out of the room with the Michael Bay explosion going on behind you. It's nice to do that. Warriors don't always feel as nice because all they're really doing is absorbing damage and hoping that they have enough to kill them, or that, any kind of thing happens to sometimes save them. Specialists tend to have their own fun with their own little metagame, and that's nice. But supports, you really, having a support in the team has always been beneficial. Like this game has something called healing fountains, which are near the towers at various intervals. They can be destroyed by the opponent, but you can drink from them to restore some health and mana. Supports kind of negate the need for that. They can restore your health and mana themselves. They create more of a frontline situation. They make teams healthier. You don't need them, thanks to the fountains, but they help augment the fountains, possibly, or even do their jobs better than the fountains. So most successful...
Yeah, I think you're giving the fountains a little bit too much credit.
Yeah, I'm actually giving the fountains a little bit too much credit.
They help when you don't have support nearby and you're on your own and you just want to restore up, but that's really all they're for.
Yeah, because supporting is still important and still there. The 9 they have, some of them are good, some of them are weird, but it is the lowest number of all the 4 classes, even compared to specialists, which is a very weirdly defined one. Support still has the least amount of representation at the time of this video. I just really dated us, didn't I? But like, that needs to be something they focus more on. I understand that the World of Warcraft lore is filled with a lot of doers, and support is not necessarily something you associate with a doer, but there are still plenty of options you can pick from, and there's plenty of indirect supporting. You don't have to have somebody who says, healing spell, healing spell, healing spell.
There's an issue with what you're saying, and that has to do with the 5v5 composition. It's very rare that you would see more than 2 supports on a team, whereas you might see 2 or possibly even 3 assassins on each team, which makes 6 assassins total versus 2 supports total versus 2 warriors total. I mean, that can change. You can have 2 supports. So the only way for me to really do a DPS spec on Tehran is to have another dedicated support so that I can focus on DPS. But we're talking about exceptions and not the general rule.
Yeah, and they have, to their credit, they have created some pretty fun supports. Rag is someone that they've had to continuously nerf into the ground because he was just way too powerful. He, in many ways, is a warrior. It's just he happens to have a healing spell, and one of his 2 ultimates is a healing thing. But he's very much a get in there, violent, punchy kind of person.
Yeah.
You also have someone like, Sergeant Morals is a full medical
Lieutenant.
Or Lieutenant Morals is a full medical person.
Sorry.
The Medic Marine. Go ahead, try, I dare you. That's the unit. She's from StarCraft 2. That's the unit.
But is she called the Medic Marine or just a medic?
Okay, they're probably just called medics. They don't actually have names. And they complain about their hairstyles. And then you have someone like Brightwing, which seems to be very much a controller type character who just happens to heal everybody in pulses every once in a while. So they do have some pretty interesting designs there, and they have proven you don't need your support to be someone who just stands there doing healing spell endlessly. Tassadar has a large number of interesting tactical options, and I think the only reason he's considered a support is because he can put shields on people. So you can do a good job of this. We have seen you do some good supports, but we need some more variety because people who play supports are kind of just, they have one, maybe two they like, and the rest are just so weirdly different or just all over the place. And having the lowest representation means the lowest number of options, because if you want to queue up as an assassin, you've got a ton of choices. If you want to queue up as a warrior, you got a decent amount. If you want to queue up as a support, you've probably got two that you like. The rest are weird. I mean, I've tried Blightwing, and I think at some point I liked her, but I just can't play her anymore. So, can I have my 10,000 gold back, please?
I actually, we have to wrap up, but I actually emailed Blizzard when I started playing Heroes of the Storm, and I told them, look, I played Reaper of Souls for about 20 minutes. Could you guys refund that for me and just put that credit into my Heroes of the Storm account? They said no because it was a year ago. Man, I would have. Gosh.
Remember, one day we may be able to play as the Reaper, and that is, of course, one of the. I guess I would be my closing point. That'd definitely be one of the coolest aspects, I think, of Heroes of the Storm. It is a amalgamation of the major Blizzard properties. Warcraft is a classic. Starcraft is a classic. Diablo is a classic, and they have modern interpretations. And yes, we've now woven in Overwatch and all that stuff, but these are games with years and years of lore. And if you look at Diablo, for example, you, the player, aren't significant. If you look at the wiki for Diablo 1, what you did according to the plot, it's a little fuzzy because it seems like everybody else did it. So Blizzard, being great storytellers, have a lot of really great characters. And when you can have Murky, this Warcraft creature thing, wearing power armor from StarCraft 2 with a paint job from Diablo, that's fun. That is cool. That is a nice combination. Like Lieutenant Morals can actually don an Alliance paint job. So
she also has one that makes her look like Samus.
Yeah, but having this kind of crossover is definitely fun, and playing around with that kind of universe is definitely fun. Although I would like to say, please put in a StarCraft map. You've got a couple of maps. I'm not quite sure where the hell they're.
I don't think any of the. Well, there's a couple of ones that are clearly Diablo based.
Yeah, and then the rest, like I think one or two is based on events that happen in World of Warcraft, but your maps don't really have too much theme going on. You've got the two obvious Diablo ones. You've got, I think, two which are based on the Halloween event from World of Warcraft, and then the rest are just kind of little all over the place. Take out some of the ones that aren't popular, like you did with Haunted Mines, fuck that map, and put in some StarCraft ones. Like, I want to take these Diablo characters and put them into the sci-fi future, and it's not as if that couldn't happen. Look at what you've done already. I can play as a sci-fi creature in the Diablo universe. So it's not like I'm asking for something outside of canon or outside of possibility here. Just
I have to say it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, like give StarCraft 2 more representation.
Yeah, so final word for me is that, much to my surprise, Heroes of the Storm gets a huge thumbs up.
Okay. Well, it definitely has earned a right to exist. It has done enough different
right to exist.
Well, no,
okay,
that was badly worded. It has done enough to differentiate itself from the other MOBAs out there. It's not another Dota clone. It's not another League of Legends clone. It's not Strife, was it called? What was that really fucked up one? There was a really bad one, which was just so obviously ripping things off from everybody else. But the point is, it's not obviously ripping things off everybody else. It does enough unique.
Dawngate, but he might be referencing Strife.
No, Dawngate actually.
A lot
Dawngate
of
was
just,
good.
A lot of them just kind of like fell though.
Yeah.
Anyways, I got it.
Yeah, but the point, it does enough unique that's worth your attention, and it's not, you can't slap clone onto it. So that is definitely good in a industry that's otherwise just doing the same thing 50 times over.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's been our episode for the day. I usually just say bye.
Bye! Okay, stop now.
You can stop whenever you want. It's your country.